Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Directors for the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you to the State of Missoula address today. If I could get everybody in the room to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Chamber's co-chairs of the Governmental Affairs Committee, Julie Gaymar-Williams of JGW Consulting and Jack Chambers of Opportunity Resources. They will be your facilitators today for this State of Missoula address. And right now, I'd like to turn the podium over to Julie.
Thank you, Chad. Good afternoon, everyone. Our first speaker today is Commissioner Bill Carey. Bill Carey is 4 years into his second six-year term on the Board of County Commissioners. For over the last 10 years prior to that, he was the director of the Missoula Food Bank. During that period, he also served 2 terms in the Montana House of Representatives. Bill was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but raised in Omaha, Nebraska. He graduated from the University of California at Riverside with a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science. Bill spent much of his time in the Peace Corps as a volunteer as well. You've covered a lot of states. Returning from the Peace Corps, he taught at the elementary and middle school in the California famous Gold Rush country. And then for several years, he co-managed and cooperatively owned a business in San Francisco before arriving in Missoula. Prior to him taking on the food bank business, he was employed by the Missoula Aging Services as their volunteer coordinator for Meals on Wheels and the senior dining programs. In 1995, he was named the Outstanding Fundraiser Executive of the Year by the Fundraising People of Montana. Bill currently serves on numerous boards in Missoula, some to mention the Board of Directors for the Partner Health Center, the Policy Coordination Committee, and the County Park Board, as well as the Larchmont Board. Please help me in welcoming our Commissioner, Bill Carey.
Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce your new County Commissioner, Michelle Landquist. Michelle. I've got just 20 minutes to tell you what this remarkable county government does, and so I'll give it a go here. Fellow citizens, I am pleased to report that the state of your county government is sound, and while we anticipate several difficult years ahead, we fully expect to continue to provide high levels of service. My goal today is not only to assure you that your county government is fiscally fit and confident in our ability in these trying times ahead to effectively and efficiently conduct the public's business. I also want to give you some sense of how much we do and how integral the county's activities are to our quality of life. The county's population as of 2007 was nearly 106,000 people. It has had an average growth rate of 1.4% annually since the year 2000. The county has a diverse mix of economic drivers, which is healthy, but its income levels are below average, with median household income at 87% of the national average. Standard & Poor's Rating Services last October took note of this, but in assigning the county its AA- rating to its $2 million general obligation bond, pointed out some important countervailing strengths, which are the role of Missoula as the county seat and a regional service center, as well as the stability provided by the University of Montana, its relatively low unemployment rate, the county's strong and stable financial performance and reserve levels, and a very low debt burden with limited capital needs. Missoula County is an $89 million organization with over 700 full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees, which makes it the largest county government in Montana. 36% of its $85 million in revenues in FY 2009 will come from property taxes. For the past decade or so, the county set its budget priorities to stabilize our financial position while continuing to provide services to a growing county. Our general fund cash reserves exceed the minimum requirement of 12% of total general fund revenues, coming in at year end at 16% or $2.2 million in reserve. It's important that the general fund maintains adequate reserves since it acts as the anchor for the rest of the county's functions in case of emergencies and other unforeseen contingencies. One of our top budget priorities for FY 2009 is to maintain our current level of service to the county residents in the face of declining property tax revenue and reduced investment returns due to lower interest rates. Another of our top priorities has to do with our policy of long-term sustainability within the budget and avoiding large swings in cash balances. To do this, we continue to ensure that ongoing expenses are always funded with ongoing, not one-time, revenues. We believe that this prudent approach will allow us to avoid many of the financial pitfalls that are occurring in many state and local governments across the nation. The county's well-earned financial condition, however, will not fully insulate us from the near collapse of the nation's economy. Building permit revenue is down 30% through the first 6 months of the fiscal year. And perhaps more tellingly, the number of deeds filed with the Clerk and Recorder's Office was down from over 3,000 in 2007 to roughly 2,000 in 2008, again, about a 30% drop. Andrew Zorney, the county's chief financial officer, points out that increased demand on our mandated services will likely force us to make some difficult decisions in the future. If there is any good news in all of this, he writes, it is that our current healthy financial position allows us some flexibility and additional time to make those decisions. Sheriff Mike Meekin's department, including the detention facility, is the largest in Montana with a budget exceeding $20 million and a workforce of more than 170 full-time equivalent employees. In 2008, patrol deputies and detectives handled over 28,000 calls and wrote over 3,200 reports. 7,200 individuals were booked into the detention facility last year. Over 4,100 of those were incarcerated for 1 day or more. 3,100 were released on the same day they were booked. The sheriff remarks that finishing calendar year 2008 within budget was a significant accomplishment given the substantial increases in food and fuel costs, plus some costly unanticipated expenditures in the inmate medical and tactical response areas. A good example of these unanticipated contingencies will be the medical costs associated with the alleged credit union robber. No estimate yet, says the sheriff, but it will almost certainly be well into the six-figure range. The sheriff's office also wants us to know that increasingly extreme recreational activities are presenting new challenges to our patrol, search and rescue, and coroner units as we try to cope with resource damage, incident response, when recreationists are injured or killed, and those who become lost or simply stuck and call for our assistance. Missoula Rural Fire Chief Kurt Beltz writes that his crews responded to 2,200 incidents in 2008, which was 100 calls over 2007 and a new record. Chief Beltz adds that very recently the fire district brought together all of the boards and fire chiefs in the 5 valleys for a joint informational meeting. He says this is the first time in the history of Missoula County that this type of meeting has ever taken place. Bob Reed, Director of Disaster and Emergency Services, believes, as do I, that the difficult and deteriorating economic climate was the primary reason the bond issue for a new public safety operations and training center failed in November. Both of us are optimistic that given the great need, the bond issue will eventually pass once the economy sufficiently improves. On a more upbeat note, 75 Missoula County residents will travel to Emmitsburg, Maryland, to participate later on this spring in a week-long program directed at planning for a catastrophic earthquake and culminating in an exercise custom written for our community. Those attending will include employees of city and county government as well as the private sector. This is a very comprehensive course and includes government operations, law enforcement, fire and rescue, public works, public health and hospitals, utilities, and transportation. The federal government pays all travel, lodging, and tuition costs of those who attend. Missoula County was one of only about 12 applicants selected each year from across the entire country. The Missoula City County Health Department provides programs and services which are vitally important to the health and well-being of thousands of county residents. They are far too numerous to list here, but I will give you an example of the work they do by calling your attention to the Women, Infants, and Children program, otherwise known as WIC. Nutrition Services Supervisor Mary Pittaway wants us to know that the WIC program is one of several federally funded food and nutrition programs that compose a safety net for many of Missoula's families and individuals. Missoula's WIC program, reports Mary, serves over half of all the infants born in our county and sees over 2,600 clients each month. WIC provides nutrition education, growth monitoring, and referrals to other needed services. Also, WIC distributes coupons for healthy foods valued at over $700 annually for each participant, bringing about $2 million into our county each year. The Partnership Health Center, or PHC, is a huge success story. With county support, Partnership was founded 15 years ago to help meet the needs of the medically indigent. From its humble start, writes Executive Director Kim Manch, as a mostly volunteer clinic with several hundred patients, to our position today as Missoula's community health center with nearly 10,000 patients and a team of doctors, dentists, and pharmacists, Missoula County has been a critical partner in our growth. Kim goes on to say that the high rates of working uninsured combined with high rates of poverty leads to problems for nearly a third of Missoula County residents when it comes to accessing health care. These problems often stem from lack of money to pay for services for those without health insurance, or an inability to pay for high deductibles and co-pays for those with inadequate health insurance. Missoula County has funded critical components of the basic structure of PHC's healthcare services. This includes extended hours, case management services, lab services, clinic supplies, medications, and support staff. Due to the shortage of dental health providers, combined with the need for oral health services, PHC received a National Health Service Corps Ready Responder Dentist in 2004. Director Manch goes on to say that access to oral health is bleak for adults and children with Medicaid. In Missoula County, there were 3,900 children under 18 and over 5,600 adults with Medicaid coverage who did not see a dentist in 2006 due to financial, cultural, or other barriers. Data from the Montana Primary Care Association indicates that approximately 30,000 medically underserved residents live in Missoula County. PHC provided over 29,000 encounters in 2008. Clinic hours have been extended to 8 p.m. on 2 evenings per week to help meet some of the demand. Partnership is currently preparing to submit 3 expansion grants, dental, behavioral health, and pharmacy, to improve access for the low-income and underserved in our area. PHC is now at near capacity, but with its recently purchased larger facility, within 5 years it will be able to double the amount of services it provides. I can't end my all too brief remarks with regard to the activities of our truly exemplary city-county health department without mentioning one of the truly outstanding and historical events of our time, the removal of the Milltown Dam. A lot of folks from then Governor Judy Martz on down helped make this happen. Special mention must go, however, to Peter Nielsen, the health department's relentless water quality district supervisor. Peter's summation of the project reads as follows. The Milltown Dam was breached in March 2008, thereby reconnecting the Clark Fork and Blackfoot rivers for the first time in 100 years. The dam removal will be completed in March this year, when the spillway removal is completed and the river returns to its original channel at the old dam site. Contaminated sediment removal from the old reservoir is now more than 60% done and will be completed this year. It was 28 years ago when arsenic contamination was first discovered in Milltown's groundwater. Groundwater quality is now being restored. Fish have access now to thousands of square miles of spawning habitat upstream, and the former reservoir lands will be converted to public ownership, ensuring long-term public access for recreation, pedestrian trails, river floating, and fishing. Missoula County, he writes, is proud to have the opportunity to be involved in this one-of-a-kind successful project. Another city-county department that accomplishes far more than is possible to begin to tell you about right now is the Office of Planning and Grants, or OPG. OPG issued over 1,000 zoning and compliance permits in 2008 and more than 1,600 other miscellaneous permits such as business licenses, sign and floodplain, etc. Last year, the office processed 50 subdivisions with over 1,300 dwelling units. Roger Millar, the director, points out that the City Council concurred with staff recommendations on zoning and subdivision motions 86% of the time. The BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, concurred with staff recommendations 96% of the time, while the Planning Board concurred with the staff 99% of the time. Roger and the OPG staff are models of dedicated public servants, and I'm honored to be able to work with them. Missoula in Motion is an OPG-administered program working to help its 3,000-plus members get here and there without using their cars. Membership in their Way to Go Club is free, so give them a call at 258-4961 to learn how you can benefit yourself, your business, and your community. While I'm at it, why not take the bus to work once a week? Call Mountain Lion at 721-3333 for information on bus service. If you're commuting from out of town, call the Missoula Valley Transportation Management Association or Mr. TMA to learn about their van pool services. Their number is 327-8515. The county's Rural Initiatives Division, among other things, administers the Open Lands Program. Since the open space bond was passed in 2006, reports the division's director, Pat O'Haron, the county has protected nearly 4,700 acres at a cost of $708,000. For each single taxpayer dollar spent on these projects, our public-private partners contributed more than $5. Hopefully, we will add an additional 14,000 acres to our conservation efforts in the Greeno area within the next several months, giving us a total of over 18,000 protected acres. Rural Initiatives continues to be proactive in planning for growth in our rural areas. In Seeley Lake, a land use plan covering approximately 248,000 acres is headed for the Planning Board this spring. A new land use plan revision has begun in Lolo with public meetings scheduled in late winter. In that same proactive mode, we now have community councils in Swan Valley, Seeley Lake, Bonner, East Missoula, Lolo, and West Valley Frenchtown. Also, as most of you know, owing to a concerted effort from the county and Senator Tester's office and other interested parties, we were successful in helping Plum Creek Timber to decide to abandon its interest in making a deal with the Forest Service to access some of our most remote and sensitive landscapes for residential development. Greg Robertson and his county Public Works crew were very busy last year. Here's a short list of their remarkable accomplishments. They completed construction of the Bonner Pedestrian Bridge at $2.9 million, began construction of the $5 million Grant Creek Flood Control and Environmental Restoration Project. Work will be completed this spring on that. Completed Phase 3 of Frenchtown Trail at $600,000. Completed construction of the Kona Bridge Fishing Access Site, $100,000. Completed construction of Boy Scout Road Trail at $500,000. Completed design of the $13 million Y Sewer Project. Construction is to start this spring on that project. The Clerk and Recorder's Office renewed approximately 110,000 vehicles last year. Vicki Zier reports that the Elections Office was extremely busy in 2008. The office had the highest voter turnout effort, with 85% of our active registered voters voting in November. Absentee ballots accounted for 54% of the voted ballots. Elections registered 1,042 individuals on Election Day. Hiring and training enough election judges to staff an election still remains Vicki's largest obstacle for the Elections Office. House Bill 18 calls for 17 counties to conduct mail ballot elections over the next 2 years, and in 2011 come back to the legislature with an analysis of the project. Vicki and most other election administrators across the state support mail ballots. Among other things, they increase voter turnout, they allow for properly handling the late registration process, and they save money. The county will save anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 if we are allowed to run the 2010 elections by mail ballot. County Auditor Barbara Behrens plays a huge role in keeping your county government on the straight and narrow path of good financial practices. Last year, her office audited, among others, the Building Code Division, Fair Cash Receipts, and the Weed and Extension Departments. Barbara's efforts recouped 83%, or almost $312,000 of the cost from the 2007 fire season. The county's Risk and Benefits Plan are doing very well under Hal Lichwager's experienced hand. The benefits plan has gone 3 years with no increase in health benefit rates and has maintained freedom of choice in providers. Our workers' comp plan's good claim experience resulted in return of premiums by dividend to employer members. Our facilities management team had a very busy year. Just a few of the many completed projects listed by Larry Farnes include the building of a new 9/11 communications mountain site next to the beacon above Alberton, extends emergency communications along the I-90 corridor and in the 9-mile Petty Creek areas. The courthouse ventilation project, which brings fresh air into the venerable building and recovers heat from air exhausted from the building, and that lowers power bills. A new camera system was installed at the county's detention center. The system not only better monitors inmates throughout the building, it also provides easy access for law enforcement and attorneys to view events. Speaking of the detention facility, Margaret Borg reports that the county continues to monitor the facility's population to ensure room for those who need to be incarcerated while eliminating the need to buy bed space in other counties. Margaret's working with law enforcement, the courts, and others in the criminal justice system to make necessary changes to meet that goal. Judge Karen Orsick is excited about exploring the creation of a new DUI treatment court. The judge writes, The community of Missoula is committed to finding and implementing the most efficient and effective ways to adjudicate DUI offenders such that they do not reoffend. The goal is to connect the offender to resources while holding the offender accountable. Clerk of District Court Shirley Faust reports that in 2008 her office filed 462 more new cases than in 2007. On a brighter side, through funding from a mini grant from the Montana Supreme Court, the District Court was able to launch a family law self-help center to aid self-represented litigants in domestic relations cases with the preparation of forms. Those who are unable to afford an attorney may seek assistance in forms preparation, child support calculations, and guidance in processing their case through the judicial system. The center is open 8 hours a week from 9 to 1 on Mondays and 12 to 4 on Wednesdays. Continuing in the self-help vein, Jerry Marks at the County Extension Office wants us to know that with a 15% increase in food preservation questions, his office is planning to create a master food preserver program. Last year, the Extension Office produced a gardening planning calendar entitled From Dirt to the Dinner Table, with week-by-week gardening and food preserving tips. And wonder of wonders, the Weed District reports that spotted knapweed is declining in Missoula County. Jerry attributes this to more landowners controlling their weeds and to success in using biological controls. Another successful endeavor is the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. Executive Director Robert Brown counted 45,920 visitors to the museum in 2008. Another positive development involves Missoula County entering into an agreement with the U.S. Forest Service for the Historical Museum to have a special use permit to use what had been the alien detention camp's headquarters at the fort. This 12,000 square foot building will be used to house some of the museum's growing collections of Missoula history and to provide much needed public space for special events and classes. Library Director Honor Bray is pleased with a nearly 10% increase in library card holders over 2007. She also welcomes the completion of a year-long redesign of the library. Honor points out that the library provides access to many local, state, and national newspapers and magazines, and that many databases are provided that a library card holder can use in the library or from home at any time of the day or night. On Wednesday, January 28th, tomorrow evening, at 5 p.m., the library board will begin a new long-range planning process. She urges you to stop by and let your wishes be known. The county's development park, located just west of Missoula between the airport and I-90, continues to attract buyers and generate revenue. Last year, reports Barbara Martins, 2 lots were sold and over $1.5 million were generated. Speaking of attracting businesses to our community and helping new ones to start up, we are fortunate to have Dick King and the county-supported Missoula Area Economic Development Corporation working daily on our behalf. The county also supports the Montana Community Development Corporation's Loan Fund and its Small Business Development Center. Rosalie Cates reports that in 2008, MCDC worked with 27 individual business startups in our area and lent nearly $3 million to local firms. And finally, Steve Johnson, Director of Human Resources, remarks that in terms of challenges in the next year, current economic conditions threaten the county's ability to maintain our current level of services, provide monetary rewards for our employees, maintain a viable health insurance program, provide constitutionally protected retirement benefits, and recruit, hire, and retain a qualified and capable workforce. Challenges indeed. I know I've inadvertently omitted many important county-supported activities and organizations. The wonderful Missoula Art Museum comes to mind, as does the mapping and GIS work taking place in the surveyor's office. And then there is our Parks Department with a full-time staff person for the first time ever that I know of. And there is, of course, the matter of the Western Montana Fair. My full allotment of 20 minutes wouldn't be enough to adequately cover the various opportunities and challenges regarding the fair and the fairground's future. I don't know the exact schedule providing for public input and discussion, but I know we want to hear your point of view. Stay tuned and stay involved. And with that, I didn't see the 1 minute sign go up, so I can ad-lib another 2 minutes if I want. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And questions and answers will follow Mayor Ingen. So if you have questions, jot them down. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor John Ingen. John Ingen became the Missoula's 50th mayor January 3rd, 2006. Prior to that, he served a 4-year term as a city council member representing Ward 1. Before entering public service, Mayor Ingen worked 15 years professionally in the newspaper business here in his hometown of Missoula. He's managed a media division of Montana a retail company, as well as his own advertising, public relations, and publishing company, Ingen Creative. In addition to that, he is co-owner of a travel agency with his wife, Tracy. John was born in Missoula, Montana. He graduated from Hellgate High School, and he graduated from the University of Montana with a degree in journalism. Mayor Ingen has been served on many boards and been involved in many committees. To name a few is, he was the past president of the Missoula Downtown Association. He was the past president of Young Audiences of Western Montana and of the Missoula Food Bank. Please welcome John Ingen, our mayor.
Well, Julie misspoke slightly, which I do often. She said I'd been served on a number of boards. I have been served occasionally in this role, and have spent some time on a number of boards as well. You know, when I started giving these addresses, the type was 11 point, and now it's 14. I'm not sure if this trend continues, we could be in trouble and have a lot of pages. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see so many familiar faces again. You know, time flies when you're having fun. 4 years ago, I stood here for the first time as your mayor and told you that Missoula is a great place to live, to work, and to raise our families. It may not be that way every day, in every way, for every one of us, but generally, we've chosen to live in a wonderful place. My job was then and is now to keep it that way for all sorts of people with all sorts of interests, all sorts of needs, and all sorts of expectations. So in 2008, we asked for a report card. We asked our citizens their opinions about life in Missoula, and they told us that they are widely satisfied. 81% rate the quality of life in Missoula, Montana as excellent or good. 97% consider the city a safe place to live, and 88% are happy with the services provided by the city. That makes us pleased and proud. And we took off from there. We worked hard in the last year on issues and policies that affect where and how we live. And one of my commitments to you has been doing the hard work of making sure that every Missoula resident has access to housing that's safe, desirable, and affordable. Housing for all of us who work in the Valley is vital to our economic health and the happiness of our households. Working with a team of local professionals, I developed the mayor's housing initiative. That led to a community housing policy, which the City Council approved in November. It will lead us in this work in the coming year. A long public process led to the adoption this past fall of UFDA, the Urban Fringe Development Area, an innovative way to look at where our growth can responsibly go. We planned for changing households and the need to use our infrastructure wisely while we preserve the unique qualities of each of our neighborhoods. The process and the product is a fine example of the way we work together with Missoula County for the greater good. Another promise I made you in moving forward as we work on is to work on our rewriting and let me try again. Another promise I made to you is moving forward as we work on rewriting our zoning and subdivision codes. Our codes simply weren't working for us anymore. They were last updated in 1972, before I was born, and as our planning director is fond of pointing out, they were last updated before the advent of the internet, of cell phones, Federal Express, and personal computers. We've held more than 80 public meetings, workshops, and listening sessions on the rewrite and presented a first draft to the public. We hope to move forward toward adopting these new codes in the spring, and we hope to move forward in partnership with this community. Our Metropolitan Planning Organization adopted the Envision Missoula Long-Range Transportation Plan after an unprecedented level of public involvement during the past year. It will shape how the investment of hundreds of millions of dollars in transit, trails, and roads, stuff that makes us get around, will determine how that's spent during the next 3 decades, or 5 years, whichever comes first. We're protecting our youth. We've reinvented the Missoula Forum for Children and Youth to provide even better service to keep our young people on a healthy path. The latest numbers show we continue to make progress in reducing our kids' exposure to alcohol and drugs. Missoula residents responded to that work by passing a substance abuse prevention levy last year, and we appreciate that. There's a new Safeway store on West Broadway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to an 8-year effort and $1.5 million in tax increment revenue bonds through the Missoula Redevelopment Agency in the city. That helped pay for environmental cleanup, demolition, and other necessary work at that site. We teamed up with St. Patrick Hospital on the project, and we thank them for their patience. We all believe it's important to retain a grocery store for the downtown and the urban neighborhoods around it. And when you ask what government's doing about economic development, I think you need look no further than the Missoula Redevelopment Agency. The MRA has been busy. Its staff also provided funding and expertise for the Greater Downtown Master Plan, the first long-range plan for the downtown. It will guide the growth of downtown for the next 20 to 25 years while protecting the surrounding neighborhoods. Our consultants at Crandall Arambula have done a great job with this, and hundreds of Missoulians have participated. This is another example of how Missoula is demonstrating, I think, to potential investors that we're serious about economic development, and we have the political will and community spirit to direct public involvement and investment in the most meaningful ways. I serve about 70,000 citizens of Missoula and thousands more who visit us every day. An informal survey of my own making suggests that 1 of every 2 of these folks is a transportation engineer. We're only paying half of them as consultants, so there's some comfort in that. Everyone is interested, folks, in traffic, and everyone has an idea for fixing it, and no one is afraid to share those ideas with me, which is the way I like it. Here are some of the ideas that we've put to work. We've improved traffic flow with a modest striping and paving project where traffic comes out of Miller Creek on Burke Street. There's more coming for that area with full reconstruction of Miller Creek Road from Briggs Street to the intersection of Upper and Lower Miller Creek Roads planned for 2010. We're moving ahead with our Russell Street South 3rd Street project, which today is 9 years in the making. Things take time in Missoula, and they're not always easy, but we're working with the City Council and our colleagues at the state and federal level to move forward. Council took another step in shoring up our environmental document, a key hurdle to design and construction last night at our council meeting, and I'd like to think we'll start building a road in 2012. If not, it won't be for a lack of trying. We've calmed the traffic in the Jefferson School area to reduce cut-through traffic between North and South Avenues west of Russell Street. Our Higgins Hill-Beckwith project will improve neighborhood connections between Mount and Beckwith and access to the university, and we expect the roundabout at that intersection to create enormous confusion for a short amount of time and then reduce crashes and energy consumption. Construction is planned for this summer when school is out. When we drive, we also park. The Missoula Redevelopment Agency is the project manager for the Parking Commission's effort to build a 300 to 500 space parking structure on the corner of Front and Patty Streets in the Front Street Urban Renewal District, another economic development project. It's one of the key catalytic projects identified in the Downtown Master Plan and will provide parking for downtown employees, the new First Interstate Bank, and its office space, and customers of Macy's and other stores and offices. Sometimes you pay me to worry. But because of the remarkable human beings who work with me at the City of Missoula, I never panic. Our police and fire department staffs, the men and women who wear the dark blue uniforms and who drive the big red trucks, continue to keep us safe. The police department, under the leadership of our new chief, Mark Muir, successfully navigated a pleasant visit from the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club last summer. With planning and organization, they were able to make the week a low-key and safe event for all of us. Thank you, Chief. Our fire department had a very busy year, supported by our fine tax-paying citizens, my administration, and our city council. For the first time, we provide fire, emergency, medical, and rescue services from 5 stations around the city, including a brand new Station 2 and a remodeled Station 3. We have 5 engine companies, which will operate during the next 5 years with the help of an $800,000 federal grant for firefighter salaries. I'd be remiss today if I didn't thank Tom Steenberg, who retired as our chief a month ago. Level-headed yet passionate, Tom got the job done and inspired others to do the same. We have a great team carrying on that commitment today, and Tom's in the audience today because the fajitas were free. So, Tom's good to see you, Chief. Our fire department also has a new wellness fitness program thanks to some seed money from an Assistance to Firefighters federal grant. We think it will benefit our employees and our community by reducing job-related injuries and illness. Pardon me. We know that quality of life is at the top of the list for Missoulians, and that our citizens value the things that make Missoula uniquely Missoula. We work hard at creating and protecting these amenities we all enjoy. Last summer, we opened the lake, a new 50-meter swimming pool. It's in Playfair Park, just next to the Splash Montana Water Park, where kids and adults have had fun since it opened the summer before last. Last summer, the 2 facilities saw 180,000 visits. That's a lot of swimming. We continue to work on Missoula's trail system, and coming up is another piece of the Milwaukee Trail between Russell and Reserve Streets. The project will be funded with money from the 2006 Open Space Bond and federal money, which stretches out those local dollars. We're working on needed easements now. That stretch of trail will go through the Emma Dickinson neighborhood, giving those folks a well-deserved share of our trail system. We continue to improve the stewardship of our 3,600 acres of conservation lands. We worked on a survey with the help of the Missoula County Weed District, the good folks and Jerry Marks' staff, on the health of the grassland plant communities in the North Hills on Mount Jumbo and Mount Sentinel. It's helping us chart our way toward our conservation goals. City staff, consultants, and citizens are working now on a conservation lands management plan that will guide our management of vegetation, wildlife, and trails on those lands. Here in Missoula, as you know, we believe in parks, and we took some big steps on 2 important and well-loved community parks this year with a master site plan for Fort Missoula Regional Park and a master plan for Memorial Rose Garden. We don't forget the smaller parks. The Frey Park in the River Road neighborhood is getting its first phase of improvements, making a green space with trails through the park, connecting it to Johnson Street. Sometimes it's the little things that are important. We wanted to reduce the danger of pedestrians tripping and falling on uneven sidewalks, so we purchased a small grinder. After our crews finish with snow removal, they grind off sidewalk defects. This not only improves the safety of all of us who walk, it also reduces the city's liability costs. And if Jim Nugent were here, he would send you a very long memo about that. Quality of life includes health. And as Commissioner Carey mentioned, our City County Health Department is on the case with help from Missoula County Public Schools and the MSU College of Nursing. We measured where our kids stand in the national epidemic of overweight and obesity. They learned that 27% of our 3rd graders are overweight or obese. That's too high. The national goal is 11%. They're bending a big effort toward this problem with the schools, the Parks Department, St. Patrick Hospital, the YMCA, and other partners who care about getting kids away from the screen and into the outdoors and onto the basketball courts. I hope to participate myself this spring as I prepare to walk another half marathon with some Missoula kids. I hope their pace is incredibly slow. Our health department staff is committed to helping mothers feed their babies in the healthiest way. They're a member of the Missoula Breastfeeding Coalition, which provides the breastfeeding tent at some of our summer activities at Karis Park and other venues. Their public health nurses and the WIC staff are trained and certified in the skills needed to support nursing mothers, and they have a breastfeeding support hotline. They work hard as advocates to help babies get this perfect natural nutrition for the best start in life. And we work to be greener. We collaborated with our friends at Northwestern Energy, Mountain Water, Allied Waste, and others on our Green Blocks residential energy conservation pilot project. The result was a demonstration of energy savings at 91 Missoula homes, 60 of which received insulation free of charge. The project insulated 42,000 and some odd square feet of living space. Also installed in those homes 43 programmable thermostats, 44 hot water tank traps, 68 low-flow shower heads, which were immediately removed and replaced with high-flow shower heads, 159 faucet aerators, 252 feet of pipe insulation, and 490 compact fluorescent light bulbs. Our hope is that it goes on as an example to other Montana cities. It was a great piece of business, and we really appreciate our partners on that project. Our newly formed internal green team, led by Jackie Corday and attended by employee volunteers, is looking at everything from paper use to green purchasing practices, just because they believe in a sustainable Missoula, and that's really where we can realize some significant savings over time. As Commissioner Carey mentioned, our friends at Missoula in Motion kept cars off the road. Its members logged about 750 work trips per day by alternative modes of transportation, saving almost 2 million vehicle miles on Missoula streets in 2008. Thanks to innovation and approval from the Department of Environmental Quality, we'll begin our hybrid poplar project at our wastewater treatment plant. We'll plant 300 poplar trees this spring and use that field of trees for land application of wastewater to further protect our Clark Fork River. It's a pilot project, and we'll have participation from our friend Dr. Steve Running at the University of Montana. So Nobel Prizes and our sewage treatment plant somehow go together. I think that's fantastic. We'll be upgrading our wastewater plant's headworks, which is the receiving structure for wastewater that flows into our treatment plant. This project will increase flow capacity, control odor, and use new energy-efficient equipment, as well as meet new Department of Environmental Quality requirements. We've contracted for the design, and we're also upgrading all of the city's major lift stations. We care about the quality of life downtown. You asked, and we responded. Our city's Panhandling Working Group, a coalition of professionals in human services, mental health services, business and local government, promoted the Downtown Business Improvement District's Real Change, Not Spare Change program last summer. Their work attracted a grant from a local family foundation that raised almost $33,000 for 3 Missoula agencies that help people with food, shelter, and clothing. As the Commissioner suggested, economic development continues to be important in Missoula, and we work closely as well with the Montana Community Development Corporation, where the available small business funding grew by $6 million last year, bringing the loan program's total to $11 million. And in addition, MCDC got some good news and received an allocation of $40 million in New Markets tax credits, which provide remarkable incentive for investment in our community. We also work closely with the Missoula Area Economic Development Corporation, the Missoula Downtown Association and Business Improvement District, the Chamber, and many other small and large businesses every day. Too many folks in too many departments do great things to mention here. From the attorney's office to municipal court, from the finance department to the cemetery, from our maintenance shop to our IT department, we're taking care of the public's business in ways that don't make headlines. All of that work is important, and I'm privileged to work with the folks who get those jobs done. I want to thank them, and especially my colleagues in the mayor's office, who manage complicated schedules, citizen concerns, and daily surprises with efficiency, elegance, and a genuine respect for those we serve. Thanks to members of our city council, many of whom are here today, who serve the citizens of Missoula with me. We can't discuss the state of Missoula without discussing city finances. As I told council members last night, we're working on saving money and planning for a modest budget next year. We're collecting less money than we hoped, but not as little as we expected. Local government runs lean. Our employees are pulling together to do more with less. We're cautious but optimistic, And for better or worse, we're ready to respond to facts as they unfold rather than react to fear-based speculation. Under the leadership of Finance Director Brent Ramharter and the help of the Missoula City Council, our credit rating was bumped up to AA, and our financial management assessment is strong, according to the folks at Standard & Poor's. Translated, that means we have excellent credit. And as recent headlines suggest, that's a big deal. And recent headlines have been grim. A troubled economy, war, uncertainty, it's all a bit overwhelming. In the past weeks, you've heard from folks much smarter and more articulate than I about the promise of America. I can only talk to you today about the promise of this place. Missoula's seen tough times before, and some of us have been around here long enough to remember those times. We remember mills and storefronts going dark, classmates with wherewithal and good grades moving to the coasts, dirty air and polluted streams. We were another western town in the depths of recession, a changing economy, and at the mercy of forces beyond our control. But we recognized the promise of the place. We cleaned up our air and our rivers. We acknowledged the fun and the funky. We invested in our downtown, in our natural spaces. We built trails and we planted trees. We fixed buildings and sewer lines, and we did all that by working together. We made the choice every day to live, work, learn, and play in Missoula. That's the choice we all make today. Whether you were born here or wish you were, you choose every day to call Missoula home. You and I share a responsibility to keep the place great, to keep the promise of Missoula alive for our kids and for theirs. We need to work together and remember that, on balance and all things being equal, most of the world would love to live right here in Missoula, Montana. So in 2009, we're going to work with the state of Montana to ensure that we receive our fair share of transportation dollars. We've argued among ourselves for too long, over too little, and all that needs to end. We're going to work with our congressional delegation to ensure that Missoula, one of Montana's critical economic engines, is fueled by any stimulus package that President Obama signs. We're going to work with serious folks who come to the table to adopt a downtown master plan and to update our zoning and subdivision regulations. We don't have to agree on every detail, but we do need to realize a return on these significant and wise public investments. We're going to work together with our schools and our university to bridge gaps and grow good citizens. We're going to work together to fill potholes and save lives. We're going to work together to lift up our poor, comfort our afflicted, rehabilitate our addicted, house our families, feed our hungry, and put folks to work. We're going to work together on the mundane and the sublime. We're going to do what local governments were meant to do, what communities were meant to do. We're going to take care of people and our place. That's our promise to each other. It's my sincere hope to see you next year and deliver good news about 2009 as your mayor. Thank you for the privilege of serving you.
Well, on that note, we should all go home, shouldn't we? Very nice. Thanks, Commissioner Bill and Mayor John. Just to even expound on what John was saying at the end, they're working together. I really look forward to this particular event every year because as I look around the room and I see so many folks that I don't see in the same room at the same time, elected officials that we're proud that you're here and thanks for the job that you're doing. Thanks for taking the courage to run for office. people that work for the city and the county. There's a number of city and county employees throughout the room, and we recognize your work and the value of what you do every day, and we appreciate that. But this is put on by the Chamber of Commerce, and I really take John's words to heart, working together. The Chamber of Commerce, without business, you really don't have a community. And certainly we recognize the things that our elected officials and our civil servants do every day. But it is that partnership that makes Missoula such a great place to be and to live. So those words that John said really warmed my heart. Thanks for being here today. This is usually at the end of what I do, but I want to do it because when we're done, you're going to be gone. And I wanted to thank our Governmental Affairs Committee, which is a brand new rework committee that works for you and the chamber. There's a number of those folks in the room, and we want to thank them for their twice-a-month commitment to getting together and working on certainly issues that I think the chamber has really not been involved with before, that we really are stepping to the plate, and I know the city or the county might not like to see us as much as they do these days, but I think we're working on that partnership, and I think that is important, that we do work together in that partnership. So thanks to that Governmental Affairs Committee, they work really hard. Okay, questions. There are little 8x10 cards on your table. If you have questions that you're just dying to hear the answers to, please write down a question and kind of wave it in there. We have some chamber staff that'll be looking for those, or if they could filter towards the front, that'd be great, and we'll get those answered for you. Since our two speakers were so efficient, we had two ways to go here. If they ran over, we were just going to do the question and answer, but it was just going to be a true-false. But since you were so good and so efficient and finished early,
True.
Yeah, you're going to have to be a little longer than true-false. So we'll start with the first question. And some of this, I know many things that both Bill and John said were similar, and some of our questions might duplicate a little bit, but I think if we could get, just ask the question, Jack. Okay. Faced with a zero reserve growth or even a shrinking budget, what steps are being taken by local government to maintain a consistent level of substantial services while controlling personnel and administrative costs? I know both of you talked to budgets, but what happens during the year if things do go south?
Are we on? Yeah. Thank you for the question. 2009 is a perfect example. We complete our budget cycle for the fiscal year, which begins in July. Because we're government, we adopt a budget a month later. Thanks. This year, we adopted our fiscal year 2009 budget in August. Learned a couple months thereafter that our revenues were not what we expected for a variety of reasons, so we began to regroup based on that information. What I asked our staff to do is find something on the order of $1.5 million in savings in their budgets, and staff is currently delivering on those, but we're monitoring, as I suggested, weekly expenses and revenues. We need to ensure that we have a strong cash balance at the end of fiscal year 2009 so that we're not upside down in fiscal year 2010. In our building department in particular, which operates as an enterprise fund out of necessity of state law, we've laid off one person, reassigned another. and we're continuing to watch that department pretty carefully. Those are jobs that depend on activity, and if the activity isn't there, we need to make some changes. We think we'll be okay for fiscal year 2009, and one of the frustrations that I and lots of others share, including Commissioner Carey and mayors and commissioners and governors around the country, is we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where the bottom is. We don't know if we've touched it, and we don't know if we're bouncing back or how long it may take to bounce back. So we're paying very careful attention, and we'll do what we need to do as managers of our enterprises to make sure that we're continuing to deliver services in the most efficient way we can.
Well, we're in the same boat as the city, of course. Most new property taxes comes from the new value of new construction. So without that, we have to tighten our belts, which is what we're doing. Like the city, we've had to have several folks laid off and vacancies unfilled. And again, like the mayor says, we're just going to have to kind of wait and see what kinds of stimulus money gets to us to help with this, and in general, write it out.
Okay, thank you. The next question, with housing, along those same lines, with housing costs that continue to be well beyond the means of many Missoulians and our workforce, the continued decline in construction industry, has there been any consideration or thought about temporary abatement of impact or other construction fees?
County doesn't have an impact fee program. We do have a building code inspection division, and that the fees charged are merely to cover the cost of providing that service. We think enforcing our building codes is a smart thing to do. It's good public policy. We're going to go ahead and still do that, but again, we're just charging what it costs.
On the city side, we do have impact fees, and we have those fees because new construction has impacts in the community, and those impacts aren't completely paid for by the activity that construction generates. Today, we don't charge the maximum impact fee that we believe we could because we've worked with the building community and the development community to find a reasonable compromise. I don't think the public good should necessarily be sacrificed when times are tough. Impact fees provide public good. Those dollars are reinvested in the community to support the infrastructure that not only allows the development that's happening to happen, but enables future development and also protects the folks who have for years and years paid property taxes on their homes and businesses in the community. So it's a way of creating what we think is equity, and also figuring out a way to get these projects done. We try to have a mix of fees so that we don't rely completely on property taxes. Impact fees are one of the ways that we get there. Impact fees for a residential dwelling are a very small percentage of the cost of construction. And if we're looking at trying to remove some impediments, we should probably look across the board and see what options are available.
Thank you. I know I've seen a couple cards wave. If you hold them up, we do have Amanda over here on the side and Nicole way in the back. We'll try and collect those and get those up here. What are your thoughts about on the need for and/or the location of a year-round, all-weather exposition center for Missoula?
That's Kim Luttrell's job.
That was true then? That was true? The answer is true? Okay, got it.
I'll go ahead and read the response that Dale Bickle, our Chief Administrative Officer, gave, because it's a good one. I agree wholeheartedly with it. He wrote that the county is supportive of considering an exposition center as part of the planning process for the Western Montana Fair. A facility like this could be an asset to the fair as well as for the entire community. However, we need to ensure that any option being considered under this planning process contributes to solving our problem. That the Western Montana Fair is not financially sustainable. We commend the Chamber for taking this issue on as a priority, and we look forward to participating in the process and the information gained in its feasibility study. So, go forth.
Is that okay? You good with that, John?
I'm perfect with that.
All right. I know you both mentioned this, and are there initiatives underway to attract new high-quality jobs to Missoula? And we have MAEDC here, and I know both of you mentioned that in your speeches. And how is the need for commercial space being assessed during the zoning and UFTA update and review process?
Well, again, our county development park, I think, is a magnet for businesses. It continues to be. We've sold most of the property as of today. We still have some excellent lots left with good infrastructure and so on. So, in many ways, the community attracts businesses by virtue of the quality of life here. We've been told that by a number of CEOs as they take a look at Missoula. The UFTA, the Urban Fringe Development Area Growth Policy Update, considered residential growth, and we will potentially look at commercial needs in the urban area for the next growth policy, that interface between county and urban.
My answer is not much different from Bill's, but I can tell you that my first year as mayor spent some time at a really high-quality conference in Charleston, South Carolina. And one of the things we learned from top-notch urban designers is that without a downtown master plan, your community has a hole in it. So we worked with our partners at the Business Improvement District and the Redevelopment Agency to put together a plan that tells investors, as I suggested earlier, that we're serious about attracting investment and redevelopment. If you demonstrate that you have a plan and some hopes and dreams in your community, you're much more likely to find folks who want to participate. In addition, whenever possible, we follow up on leads that we get from MAEDC. We present our best face through our work with the Brownfields program. We're trying to create commercial and multi-use space in former industrial sites, and again, sort of do the best adaptive reuse we can.
Thank you. Tell us about the new Salcedo Center. A question from the audience.
The short version is the Salcedo Center is a product of the work of our Poverello Center. It's grant funded, and it fills a gap in our community that our panhandling working group, led by Ginny Merriam and helped along by lots of human service agencies, found in our community. We have folks who are wandering around addicted, mentally ill, and in many cases intoxicated, and they don't have any place to be during the day. The Salcedo Center, which is I think a pretty terrific partnership between the First Baptist Church on the corner of Woody and Pine and the Poverello Center, takes these folks in, tries to get them some help, some programming, and some hope. And in the meantime, these folks also have a warm place to stay, and sometimes, bless their hearts, in their worst condition, they freak people out, and this gives them a safe place to be, and I think gives some comfort to businesses and folks downtown.
Good, thank you. This is for the mayor. Since the Fort Missoula Regional Park was voted down twice by the taxpayers, why is the city spending money on it?
We continue to think that the Fort Missoula Regional Park, in cooperation with the county and the university, is a great community asset. There is lots of public support. Public support doesn't always translate into financing, but I think we have a good plan to present to the public, and some opportunity through federal stimulus, some grants, some other programs will be ready to go to work in the event that money shows up. It is a great facility, it's a real asset, and it's also, you know, our recreational assets, our green infrastructure has tremendous value. And more in the West, we recognize that you can live almost anywhere. You may as well live someplace that's nice, and Missoula's nice because of that infrastructure and the opportunities that those recreation facilities provide. So we want to be ahead of the curve if we can.
Okay, thank you. If and this is referring to the federal stimulus dollars, if the federal dollars are used for government and infrastructure projects, it seems that upon completion of the projects, the money will trickle down and eventually dry up. So the question is there a possibility of the money also being used for local small business that would continue to generate more dollars and thus continue to stimulate the local economy?
My short version is I don't know. The stimulus package that's making its way through the House of Representatives has a variety of components. I have to imagine, you know, one of the bullets is small business. I have no idea how that bullet translates into what happens on the ground, but I'm certain there's advocacy for that kind of programming. The other piece of the stimulus package, there actually was a stimulus package passed, and the hope was that would loosen up some credit, let bankers bank and let borrowers borrow. We'll see how that trickles through the system, but that's designed as an incentive for small business as well. Those federal dollars that go to what we're advocating for are projects that are in the works, that are in our plans, and that are necessary. And it's rare that we complete those projects with in-house labor. We contract with all sorts of folks, and that moves through the economy, I think, pretty dramatically. And I think anybody who's an engineer, a highway worker, or works in the construction trades can tell you that.
Actually, Dick King knows a lot more about this than I do, or Rosalie Cates, and I'd be happy to hand the mic over to either one of them. But I'll just say that the county, at the top of its list, put the public safety building, as our priority, and that's a $20+ million project. We put a lot of people to work for a year or two, but that's the way it's going to work. I doubt if that's going to get funded. Maybe it will, and we'll just have to wait and see.
I am out of cards. Are there any more left? Whoa. None? I didn't do the last question. It had to do with Russell Street, and I think do you want to talk about Russell Street some more, John?
I sure can.
Way to go.
I sure can. So last night, a majority of the city council supported hiring a contractor to do a peer review of the environmental impact statement surrounding the Russell Street project. And this stuff gets a little convoluted. The relatively short version is that if the state of Montana told us in 2000 that if you wanted to rebuild Russell Street, including a bridge from Broadway to about Mount, that's about a mile and a half of road, we were going to have to do an environmental impact statement. We worked with the state, selected a contractor that the state liked. That contractor went out of business before the environmental impact statement was completed. We had to start a new environmental impact statement. We've invested millions of dollars in that environmental impact statement. We've invested a lot of community vision to the point that we've probably worn some folks out on that process, and we're still not done with it. Last night's action is designed to either confirm or refute some of the data that's in the draft environmental impact statement. We'll see how that plays out. I think council's hope and intention was to make sure that that document was rock solid, given the changes in circumstances in the economy. And so we think that's another 6-month or so process. That peer review costs about $180,000. Nothing is cheap. That money is contained in the larger project, which is also funded in large part by federal dollars. So we get environmental impact statement done. We move through a design process, through a contracting process, lots of public process left to happen, lots of decisions on the part of governing bodies before we move to construction. So my guess is it could take us a dozen years to improve 1.5 miles of road in Missoula, Montana. I'd prefer we figure out a way to do that better, and we continue to talk with the state. I can tell you that the way I know that we do it better is we have local dollars to apply to the project. If we have local dollars, we avoid some of the, and part of my job is to be a regulator, but in this case, I don't think we need some of the regulation to get this particular 1.5 miles done, or some other miles around our community and around our state. So if we had local dollars, I think we have more control, and we've demonstrated that we can use those local dollars to great effect, cutting construction times by half and costs by at least that much in some cases.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, on behalf of your Missoula Chamber of Commerce, we certainly want to thank Mayor John Engen. That was great. And Bill Carey, who is our chair of our county commissioners these days. We want to thank both of them. What a great job. Did well on the questions, even though they weren't true and false. So good job. We will see you next year, and have a great day.